Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
To Thrive Live.
Hello,
I'm
everyone.
And I'm here with Karolyn Gazella. Karolyn, can you hear me all right?
I think you jumped the gun a little bit, but now I can hear
made a
you.
mistake here.
Oh, you can't hear me. Okay, so okay, well, hello everyone and welcome to 5 to Thrive Live. I'm Karolyn Gazella and I'm here with my co-host and good friend Dr. Lise Alschuler. Lise, can you hear me? Nope. I think our good friend Dr. Alschuler is having some technical difficulties. So, okay. I am just going to get started because you know why? I love this topic so much. This topic is timely as we head into the holiday season. We're going to be talking about the transformative healing power that comes from rituals. And I think our listeners may be surprised at the level of science associated with the mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical benefits that we can get from rituals. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, Dr. Alschuler, are you with me? Okay, well, Lisa's having some technical difficulties, so I'm just going to go ahead. Lisa, are you there? Nope. Okay, well, before we dig into this topic, I'm going to go ahead and thank our sponsors because we appreciate our sponsors so much. They've been with us forever, and we just love our sponsors. Beginning with Cetria, a patented form of glutathione clinically proven to raise blood glutathione levels. Glutathione is the master antioxidant and the body's primary defense against free radicals. It also helps support respiratory health. For more information, visit Cetria
Hello,
Glutathione.
can you hear me?
Nope. Yes, I can hear you, Lise. Are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, hang on one second. I'm just texting our good friend. All right. For more information, visit cetriaglutathione.com. Also, cognizin-citicoline, which is nature's way of keeping the brain's energy-producing centers firing on all cylinders. If you're looking for a way to enhance your brain function, including memory, focus, and attention, look for Cognizin on the label or go to cognizin.com for more information. ProThrivers Wellness Brain is a product that contains Cognizin, as well as other brain-supporting nutrients and herbs. You can find ProThrivers Wellness Brain online at pureformulas.com. There's also ProThrivers Wellness Sleep, which combines higher dose melatonin and other sleep supporting natural ingredients specifically designed for thrivers. You can find ProThrivers Wellness Sleep also at pureformulas.com. And Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics. It's a best-selling probiotic for more than 30 years, and it contains 12 probiotic strains that are shelf-stable, so no refrigeration is required because of a unique 3-year fermentation process. It's a very effective probiotic. You can learn more at DrOhhiraProbiotics.com. All right. Well, we're still having technical difficulties with Dr. Alschuler, so I am going to get started. Let's start by defining or describing rituals and maybe giving some examples of rituals. And I think that this is a really good place to start because I think there might be some misconceptions and some confusion regarding what a ritual is. And certainly 'tis the season, so holidays provide a wonderful opportunity for rituals. But one of the possible misconceptions is that rituals are only religious. But the reality is that's just one type of ritual, a religious ritual. Um, there are many other types of rituals, even though religious rituals do have a lot of symbolism and they are very powerful rituals. But the other misconception is that you may be thinking that they have to be a big event, like Thanksgiving or like, a New Year's Eve party with intentions and cheers and everything else, weddings, funerals, all of these big celebrations that are ritualistic are big events. But what we're going to learn tonight is that ritual doesn't have to be a big event, it can be a small event. So when I was doing my research for this topic, um, here's the definition that I came up with based on a couple of papers that I, really, really enjoyed reading. So here's the definition. Ritual is defined as a repeated behavior pattern performed at a specific time that often includes symbols. It can be done alone or in a group setting. And I really loved this description from a 2019 paper. It was a very thorough paper and included a lot of research, but it discussed the connection between ritual and being a witness, which I feel is powerful. The authors state witness is ritual. And they go on to say that we can be a witness to our own experience, a witness to the experience of others. We can have others witness our experience, and we can provide witness to a ritual event like a wedding or even a protest. We're coming together as community and we are bearing witness to this particular routine or this particular ritual, which that got me thinking, what's the difference between a routine and a ritual? So I came up with this really great description that says a routine is a sequence of actions performed regularly, often mindlessly, to create structure and efficiency. We all know about our routines. I am definitely a creature of habit. I love my routines. A ritual is similar in its regularity, but it has more intention, more meaning, and purpose. It's transforming that experience into a more mindful and emotionally significant practice. So the key difference there is in mindset. Routines focus on the what. What am I doing? While rituals focus on the why. So let me give you an example. So if I get up in the morning and I go make my coffee, and while my coffee is brewing, I play my Wordle game, which I actually do. Um, That's a routine. That quickly becomes a habit, a routine. My coffee's brewing, I'm playing Wordle. However, if I get up in the morning and while my coffee is brewing, I am setting an intention for the day. I'm watching my coffee get brewed and I decide my intention for today is going to be gratitude. So I am going to identify 3 or 4 things that I'm grateful for that morning in that moment while my coffee is brewing. That, my friends, can quickly become a powerful morning ritual. So that's the difference. It's not what am I doing? I'm making my coffee and I'm playing my Wordle game. It's why am I doing this? I'm doing this to set an intention for the day. And that morning ritual can be powerful, definitely powerful. So Lise, are you with us?
I don't know what
Yes.
happens. It was so loud that I turned down my volume, but it wouldn't turn down. So I went to my sound setting and then I just lost it altogether. Could not get it back. So I'm so sorry.
But did you hear my great introduction?
I did. I just
Defining
heard.
ritual. Okay,
Well, no,
good.
I didn't hear that, but I heard the example of your morning ritual.
Oh, yes. So I was just trying to make the case that, rituals can be, actually, what I was trying to do is distinguish between routine and ritual, which I think is a
Mhm.
very important distinction. And then I was defining it, and I think you're going to like this that you missed. In one of the papers I read, the authors state that witness is ritual, and this
Hmm.
whole concept about bearing witness, and I love that. So before we talk about science, because as you know, I can't wait to jump into the science, I want to hear your take on how you describe ritual,
Yeah.
how you even incorporate it, or do you incorporate it into the healing plan for your patients? Tell us a little bit about your perspective on ritual, and maybe even how it is different from routine.
Well, I think one of the things that I heard you say, which I agree with, is that ritual is a behavior that has meaning that's beyond the actual behavior itself. I think traditionally, culturally, rituals are done in relationship with others, and they often are at points that mark major transitions, going from a child to an adult in many cultures is marked by a ritual. There's the ritual of marriage and the ritual, in some cases, actually of divorce or separation. Like there's any major life event, funerals, those are all considered, I think, rituals. And I think the purpose of those rituals is that they create a comma in our sentence of life and require us to take a pause and to evaluate the significance of what we are experiencing and to give it more meaning and to collect from that meaning the purpose that it might be serving for us or the significance that it has for us. So I think of rituals, generally speaking, as things that kind of add significance
Hmm.
to our lives.
Yes, I would agree. And what surprised me when I was researching this topic, I mean, I love ritual, and that's why I wanted to really dig into it, because I was really curious. Do these rituals that we hold dear, do they benefit us, like from a emotional, spiritual, mental, physical standpoint? And I was shocked at how much research I found on this topic.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you want to start with your science or if you want me to dig into mine. Where would you like to begin?
Well, since I've been absent for some of the show so far, I'll do my part. So I'll start and say that, in many of my recommendations to patients, I incorporate ritual when I'm talking to them about stress management, about reestablishing their homeostatic mechanism of vitality. And that's because rituals tend to provide also another purpose of rituals is that they tend to provide a regularity or something we can count on at certain times of day, like your morning that you described. You can count on that every day, and it that has a very important calming effect. So it's has anxiety, it reduces anxiety, which has been studied, and it also has been shown when people have these consistent behaviors or ritualistic behaviors in their day that it helps them to achieve better homeostatic balance. And that is a system that's maintained by our adrenal glands and our sort of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, all of which is to say that's how we interact with the world from an anxious place, a protective place, or a calm, protected place. And so rituals really help us to move into that more calm and protected place. And that's actually been shown quite eloquently, I might add, in a number of studies.
Yes, I mean that's actually when I was going to talk about the physical benefits. I was going to talk about the central nervous system, and the fact that rituals can often release those feel-good brain chemicals, the endorphins, which can physically help with pain management, chronic illness, help us manage stress. So there's a very physical mechanism that takes place that can benefit us. I mean, we also know that bedtime rituals, for example, can help with sleep quality and quantity. So there are physical benefits as well. Um, but can I stay on this emotional regulation that you were talking about? Because what surprised me there, I kind of knew like anxiety, depression, stress, but the research showing that people, not only with anxiety and stress, but also with trauma or people with obsessive compulsive disorder, abuse victims, people in palliative care. These groups of people create their own rituals as a soothing, healing mechanism. And it does lessen their symptoms, and they actually get some relief. So I was surprised at the scope. So it's not just anxiety, but it's trauma and all these other things. How rituals can help with that.
And there's been some studies too to say that the more deeply you experience the ritual, and the more often or the more regularly you practice the ritual, the deeper the benefits of it, both I think in terms of the physical symptoms, like you were saying, but also especially in terms of its anxiety relieving effect. And I think that's important because sometimes people might feel a little silly when they're first establishing a ritual, like, oh, this is just a routine, I don't really feel any different. But to just recognize and be patient with the fact that it's just the repetitive, regular nature of it that's part of its anxiolytic or anxiety lessening impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And the studies that so eloquently describe that are with performance and goals. So, studies with athletes, for example, who use ritual to prepare for their game, they perform better. Students who use study rituals to prepare for their exam perform better. People who create those morning rituals, like we were talking about, to prepare for their work day. They have better performance, and they're happier at work because of these rituals that they've established.
Yes, indeed. And I think it bears mentioning that um I talked about this just briefly, but I think it's really important for us to acknowledge and to celebrate the rituals that we have, that mark big transitions that typically occur for people. So, for example, the coming of age rituals that many traditional cultures still maintain, we've largely lost in the society. And I think that has something to do with why some of our young adults feel a little bit lost as adults, that they've not had the opportunity to really mark that transition in a way that's witnessed, acknowledged, and supported by their community. We're about to enter into, as we're recording this, into the season of Thanksgiving, which for many people is a very ritualistic affair. It's, something that we have a typical kind of meal that we eat and spend time in a typical way with our family. And that serves a really important function in knitting the family or the people that you celebrate Thanksgiving with together. So I think it's really important for us to acknowledge the big kind of life landmark rituals too.
Yeah, I would agree. I think rituals can help us cope with these life transitions. It can help us cope with grief and suffering and celebration. And I would also agree that I think that perhaps younger people have not yet created their own rituals. And I think of rituals as being a language for expression. This helps us express ourselves, and it helps us gain connection with others, and it helps us feel stable and safe. And I think all of those things are important. And when we don't have rituals that resonate with us on an individual basis, um, we may have the opposite. We may not feel safe. We may not feel stable. We may not feel connected. We may feel lonely. And I feel like that is a key benefit, and a key factor in the healing power of rituals. It's in one of the papers I've read, the author said ritual is its own language, which I think is just beautiful. And they use an example that in cases of people who have dementia, when there's no longer meaningful speech, these same individuals, when they participate in ritual, like let's say singing, um, they all of a sudden are communicating and they're feeling alive. And so I think ritual can be a very powerful healing tool, to provide a lot of connection and emotional support for people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think ritual is, like you said, that it's a it's a language in and of itself. And I would take that one step deeper and say that it's a symbolic language. So the ritual itself symbolizes the greater meaning of whatever it is that we have associated or linked that ritual to. So, the ritualistic aspects of a funeral, for example, would be a way, is really a symbol of how of both how people have held that individual in their lives, and also of their acceptance of that life as we know it having ended, and letting that person go. So, it gives it serves as a symbol for those deeper meanings. And I think that's important, because sometimes when we think about rituals, people can kind of get a little mixed up and think about them as superstitions, actually. So a superstition can become, or people can become superstitious about a ritual, like, oh, if I don't do my thing, I'm going to have a bad day. Or if I don't do my morning, coffee and what was the other, and Wordle, I'm going to, I'm going to get in a fight with whatever. Like, that's more of a superstition. That's just kind of thinking that the ritual is causative of whatever else happens. Whereas I think it's a little bit, that's not what ritual is. Ritual is really, like we talked about, is resetting your nervous system, putting yourself into a calmer state of mind, and giving yourself the opportunity to be reflective of the moment and or the event that the ritual is associated with.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that taking the pressure off of the ritual is important, and having the ritual be more of a enjoyable spiritual event. I look at ritual as a way sometimes for us to get in touch with our identity, our purpose. And then when we do ritual in group settings, there is this sense of belonging, like there's something bigger than us. And I feel like it one thing that I wanted to get across is that ritual doesn't, and you mentioned, like, don't have this pressure and make it into a superstition. Ritual has the ability um, to be easy, and it's a matter of you know having the intention, having a plan, and I think that that's really key, in addition to these big events like Thanksgiving and these holidays and New Year's and whatever. um, we can incorporate rituals into our daily lives, our weekly lives, our monthly lives, into our schedule. They can become a part of the fabric of our wellness plan, and rituals can be easy, and they can be fulfilling, and in the process they can also really benefit our mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical health. So I feel like this is a really interesting wellness strategy that maybe our listeners have not thought about, you know, doing above and beyond the biggies, the big events.
Yeah, for sure. And those smaller ones or the individual rituals, again, I would just say that if somebody is engaging in a ritual, it has to be purposeful and it has to be with intent. And for some people, rituals are almost always involving spirituality, so that there's a feeling of connecting to the greater intelligence in some way. And I think that that's not necessarily true for all rituals, but it can be a component of rituals. But in whatever way, there's meaning
Hmm.
applied beyond the actual act itself, which is what distinguishes it from just a repetitive behavior.
Yes, I would agree. I think the symbolism is critical. My dog Ellie passed away, and I moved to New Mexico, and I took my ashes with me, and I created this beautiful rock formation, and I spread her ashes, and I did it in a place where I could see it out my window. And I often will take the dogs, my new dogs there, or I'll go on horseback, and I will pause and I will appreciate the what she did for me, and the love that we shared. And I think that becomes one of my favorite little hikes, because of what I've created there.
Yeah.
So I would agree. I think symbolism is and meaning is absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And I'm glad that you have, you're so proactive about incorporating rituals into your day. And, I do too. I have little tiny rituals. Sometimes it's just the ritual of making myself aware enough of whatever I'm about to do that I take a mindful moment before I engage in something. And that feels very much of a ritual because I'm transcending this act of doing and I'm gaining what I call meta awareness of being in the moment. And that allows me to just kind of develop a bit more calm and focus going forward. And the other thing I'll say about rituals, which is kind of interesting, is there are, like all of us have, let's say, some habits that perhaps are not on the healthiest side of the equation, right? So
Hmm.
things that are maybe not so good for us. So a really common habit that a lot of people have, and I use that word purposely, is to come home, have a glass of wine to relax. Now, if somebody just does that, has a glass of wine to relax, that's a habit. It's just something that somebody does mindlessly. Whereas if somebody comes home and makes that drinking the glass of wine a ritual, so now it's mindfully. So now they're coming home, they're purposely realizing that this is their moment to disengage from their day. There's maybe they imbue a certain way in which a place in which they sit, maybe they say a certain, statement of gratitude, or they just appreciate their surroundings for a moment. Maybe they really feel the texture of the wine in their mouth, and now they're like imbuing more meaning into the moment. And that can become, actually, not to say that the wine is necessarily healthy, but it can become a healthier activity because of the extra ritualness and mindfulness that's been interlaced with the activity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I was describing in the beginning, talking about the difference between routine and ritual. You know, ritual has much more intention, meaning, and purpose, and it's focused on the why versus just the act of drinking that wine. But it's, as you said, it's focused on gratitude and appreciation and relaxation and all of these things that are much more significant than just a habit.
Hmm. Any final words, Carolyn, on rituals?
Well, I feel like, you know, there's a lot that we can do to be healthy and happy and joyful, and creating spiritual, meaningful rituals is a part of the plan.
Mm, love it. Yeah, I would fully agree. I think especially now the world is very chaotic. It's very disorienting for a lot of people. There's a lot of change and it's coming at a very rapid pace, and it's only going to accelerate with the advent of artificial intelligence making its way into our lives. So I think it's critical that we give ourselves these regular pause moments just to help get ourselves reoriented back into our lives. And I think rituals are a beautiful, inexpensive, and very accessible way to do that.
Yeah, now more than ever. All right, Lise, this has been a great show. Why don't you go ahead and thank our sponsors one
I
last
would
time?
love to. So we have ProThriver's Wellness Sleep Formula. Thank you, ProThrivers. We have Cetria Glutathione, the superior glutathione to support liver and immune health. Cognizin Citicoline to help enhance memory, focus, and attention. And Dr. Ohira's award-winning, shelf-stable probiotic.
Yes, thanks to our sponsors and thanks for listening. And just a reminder that you can find past shows at ithriveplan.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. All right, Lise, may you experience joy, laughter, and love. It's time to
And
thrive,
you as
everyone.
well.
Yes, all right. All right. And it's time to thrive, everyone. Have a great night.